So there was an article written years ago called the Bible According to Kids, and one of the quotes, they had just a bunch of biblical quotes from kids, and one of the quotes was that Solomon was David's son, and he had 300 wives and 700 porcupines, which is kind of funny to think about because obviously Solomon didn't have porcupines, he had concubines. But the Bible does record a lot of interesting and fascinating thoughts about the person of Solomon, potentially the richest man who ever lived. One of the thoughts that the Bible records about Solomon is that he loved many foreign women, people from all over the known world at that time, and he clung to these women in love. And he had 700 wives who were his princesses, and then he had 300 concubines. So if you think about it, this guy was regularly having sex with potentially as many as 1,000 different women that we know of, and it could have been much higher than that. A modern-day Solomon was probably a basketball player named Wilt Chamberlain. Wilt was legend to have had sex with 20,000 different women. And he had this fascinating quote that before he died, he wrote, "With all of you men out there who think that having 1,000 different women is pretty cool, I've learned in my life that having one woman 1,000 different times is much more satisfying." So it's almost like we get a chance to get into Solomon's brain and be like, hey, was it really worth it to have sex with all these people? I remember hearing a testimony from a porn addict, and he was sharing about how he could view porn from 10 o'clock at night until 6 in the morning, and then go back to work and work a full day. His porn addiction was so strong that he could look at pornography for hours upon hours. One of the things that people are beginning to understand about pornography and porn addiction is that it doesn't satisfy in the same way that sex with a person satisfies. While we think about a sexual act with like a man and a woman who are married, and we think about how that happens and then it's over, with porn addiction it can just keep happening, and you can continue to get deeper and deeper into it, and it can last hours upon hours in really unhealthy ways. For me in my life, the testimony of Wilt Chamberlain, testimony of Solomon points me back to the reality that every time I see a person who I think, oh, if I could just have sex with that person, I would feel satisfied, I remember these guys and their testimonies, and I think to myself, it's never going to be enough. It's never going to be enough. And so this week, guys, when you're tempted to act out sexually, when you're tempted to lust after somebody who you're around, or when you're tempted to get online and look at pornography, I want to challenge you to take a minute in that temptation to step back and ask yourself, is this really going to satisfy me? Is this really going to be enough? And I think that as you get in the habit of asking yourself that in the moments of temptation, you're going to find that you're going to have a stronger desire to not fall into that temptation.